Is Florida State the best team inside the Sunshine State?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day, each and every day, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you a Sunday edition of Locked On Noles after a bye week. We're going to be discussing the in-state rankings, talking about Florida State and Miami, which one is the better team right now. And oh, by the way, the Florida Gators are done. My gosh, that was atrocious. I had a hard time watching some of that game, but I digress. Florida State and Miami will be the mainstay. We're going to break down some stats, start talking a little bit about quarterbacks, throwing the deep ball, having some fun with that, preparing for the bigger topic on Monday morning, going to be up 3 a.m. for you folks that listen on audio and 5 a.m. on YouTube, talking about Florida State's Tommy Castellanos deep ball. Where does Florida State rank? My own national top 10 rankings and who would win if we had a playoff right now. Florida State has ascended faster than any team in college football, so look forward to that on Monday. But right now, I just want to talk about Florida State, Miami. The Gators obviously are about to have to get rid of Billy Napier. Like, that is just disaster. How does DJ Lagway throw 5 picks? All of that, combine it with the recruiting sense, what's going on, and what's at stake for Florida State this week as they get ready for Kent State, to talk about this ranking again in a couple of weeks before the Noles host the Miami Hurricanes inside of Doak Campbell Stadium. So if you take nothing else from this podcast today, note it's all about whether or not the Noles have all the way from just oblivion caught up with Miami. And I think that it's neck and neck. I don't really think you can discern one of the other in terms of how they played in their games so far. And here's the biggest factor that I want to go with. Last year, it was hard to watch Florida State's quarterbacks make a decision at the line of scrimmage, whether they're checking a play, getting in or out of a bad run play, remotely throwing accurate passes, anything. Has any team in college football went up more at the quarterback position than the Florida State Seminoles? Is there even a close second? I say no. And I have nothing against Carson Beck and what he's done at Miami, but they had Cam Ward last year. It's not like they were struggling at quarterback. They had arguably the best player in college football behind center. I think that you're looking at a team in Florida State that has the opportunity now to beat anybody in college football on a neutral field. Like, this is a most likely, right now, a team that's going to make the playoff. And I didn't think that until this weekend. And it's ironic because the Noles didn't play. But just think about the quarterbacks for a second across college ball. How many would you take over Tommy Castellanos for their system? Obviously, Tommy is very specific to what he does. But how many would you take over Tommy that are also connected to a program that had the dudes in the trenches, that had the speed outside guys like a Deuce Robinson, like a Squirrel White? How many would you take over Tommy? Before this season started, I probably could have named you 20, no problem. Could you name 10 now when you put the sum of all parts together? Think about that for a second. Is Florida State's quarterback situation with Tommy worse than 10 programs in the FBS? Off the top of my head, I would say no. Think about where that was last year. It was bottom 5. It wasn't, conservatively, it was not in the top 100 in the country in any point last year. I mean, they were just garbage at quarterback. They were. But now, coaching matters, getting better fits, more guys bought in. How many would you rank ahead? With that, let's talk a little Noles and Canes and just some numbers here. I had some fun. One of my favorite stats, if you listen to this podcast, is about Florida State's ability to throw the football and hit chunk yardage plays, or any team that they're getting ready to play. I like to preview that. Passes that go at least 20 yards down the field before a defender or an offensive player makes contact with it. Those are make or break plays. Those are chunk yardage plays. Those are wow moments, momentum builders or losers. And if you watched any of the games this weekend, I mean, the A&M Notre Dame game, Lord have mercy, did Tennessee bomb on Georgia, but then Georgia bombed on them. If you cannot throw the ball down the field in college football today, you're not winning, man. A lot of people thought when Gus Malzahn came to Tallahassee, Florida State's not going to they can throw the ball. To that point, I've got stats all over the place, but here are a few things that I have so far. And keep in mind, the Noles didn't play this weekend. They've only played 2 games, so some of these stats are a little different for each. But Tommy Castellanos on passes of 20 or more yards, he's 3 of 6, 50%, 164 yards per attempt, or 164 yards, 27.3 yards per attempt. And most importantly, this is really interesting because a lot of guys get some bad luck with this. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So he's throwing the ball down the field well. Carson Beck, he's known as a guy that likes to be deliberate with the ball, be consistent, not really throw it in harm's way when he's in rhythm. He only does that when he gets pressed a lot. And Miami's done a good job of protecting him, but he's still throwing the ball down the field better than what he's normally given credit for. For Miami, Beck, 8 out of 16. Now he's played 3 games. 8 out of 16, 50%, 234 yards, 14.6, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's been pretty good too. And then if you look at it, I mean, I don't know what's going on at UF. This is one of the worst stat lines in major college football. How DJ Lagway and the coaching there has been so bad. How DJ Lagway on passes over 20 yards, this is what PFF has now. 1 out of 7, 14.3%, 41 yards, 5.9 yards per attempt, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. How is that possible? Byron Brown at USF's done a pretty good job. You see, I'm not going to really talk about them as much today, but obviously I would take USF over Florida right now. UCF, would they beat Florida? I don't know, but Florida can't score. Miami can't score. They've combined for a grand total of 26 points in 2 games with DJ Lagway at quarterback, and they've got Jaden Ball at running back. He's going to play in the NFL. They've got Jake Slaughter at center. He's going to play in the NFL. Their coaching staff might have done the worst job of anybody in college football, major college football so far this year. Worst coaching job. Florida Gators. It's really hard to understand. So again, take your pick, which if you want Florida State or Miami. Right now, if I had to vote, I'd give Miami the edge because they've been a little better, a little longer. Obviously, Florida State was terrible last year, but they're trending in the right direction. By the time they meet in Tallahassee, who knows who's going to be playing for the Noles? They got a lot of guys coming back from injury, so I wouldn't want to pick the game yet. But right now, if I had to rank them, who's just played better so far in the games, I'll give Miami the slight edge over Florida State because they beat a pretty good USF team badly yesterday. They put it to them, and they also beat Notre Dame. And by the way, Notre Dame's defense is garbage. But Miami's played well, and they've ascended. So we're going to be looking at them overall. But before I come back and talk about what Florida State needs to do to take that next step in the passing game, I want you to think about this question, and we'll get into it after the break. Does Florida State have to do anything different against teams like Miami, Clemson, NC State even? That's a road game on a Friday night. Never take that out of consideration. And then Florida. Teams that have more talent than some of the basic ACC teams, do they need to change anything up or just be who they are? We're going to talk about that next here on Locked on Seminoles. Quick question for all of you college football fans out there. If you go back in time and sit in front of your school's favorite rivalry game situation, obviously Florida State Miami or Florida State Florida would be it for us Noles. But what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be the game. These aren't just hats. They're these vintage styles, and I went and looked at them on the gamecaps.com earlier today that I used to wear back in the day. I don't know what happened to it, but I had a really cool Florida State hat that I used to wear. And guess what? You can still get those hats, and not just the styles, but the price. If you use code LOCKEDON, you can get that same hat for $16.99. Just head to thegamecaps.com to check it out. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use code LOCKEDON for an exclusive discount because legends wear the game. This show is also brought to you by our friends over at 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots, delivering tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and no crashes. What you're going to love most is how portable they are. Take them wherever you want to go, and they've got great taste in a small shot. So if you're going to the gym, if you're going out with friends, or if you're just trying to power through a late night study session, there is something for you with 5-Hour Energy. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give it up for the caffeine flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Just head over to www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. And we are also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and with the NFL season, we have something that's really fun. If you bet $5 and win your very first bet, guess what? You're going to get $300 in bonus bets. That is right, $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. So whether it's betting on over-unders, player props, like whether or not Patrick Mahomes is going to win MVP or he's going to throw for 280 yards or more, it's pretty easy with FanDuel. Check it out today. So are you ready? Download the FanDuel app and visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. So I bring you back to the question that I had before the break. Does Florida State need to change up anything in their passing game to take it to the next level when they play Miami? Well, even when they play Virginia, it's a Friday night game too. Are you going to be ready? Do they need to add any pieces? And who's healthy? By the way, that's always the number one determination for who wins a game. Who's actually playing? Score White needs to get back. They got to find out a little bit more about some of the guys that are coming up the ranks, some of the freshmen, redshirt freshmen, etc. And who do they have with Landon Thomas? Like, what kind of health is he? I know he's listed as a tight end, but that's a rare athlete. Amari, how much they're going to use? All these little things, and then you put it into the board with formations, situations, down and distances, and just who do you trust to win 50-50 situations as a route runner, in a jump ball situation, blocking, all of that stuff. It's interesting. And I think Florida State has been pretty generic by Gus standards. He's got a massive playbook on what they run, and I expect to see them add to it as the season goes on. I don't think he's overwhelmed his players in year one at Florida State, and I believe that you're going to see him throw the ball around a little bit differently as the year goes on and keep teams off balance. So I don't think it's necessarily throwing the kitchen sink at the opponent with stuff they don't normally use. That's not the case. You'll see a little bit more screen game, getting the ball to Squirrel, B.J. Gibson, LaWay McCoy, another guy that's been banged up. Once they get some of these guys back, you'll see some of that basic stuff. And then on top of it, it's one or two special plays, maybe a gadget play, where Florida State throws the ball and gets a defender in a very awkward spot. He's got to beat not just the ball carrier, somebody caught the pass, but he has a lineman in front of him on a screen, or a tight end is out there that can help block. Florida State's done a great job of blocking for each other. I think it's actually going to be the shorter passing game, not the longer, that will benefit the Noles more as the season goes on. You're going to see more teams run, I don't want to say just cloud and sky coverage versions of cover 3, but you could even see some more cover 4. Teams are going to try to force Florida State to be methodical and not hit shots. I don't think that many people, myself included, expect Florida State to throw the ball down the field with this much success. Not that Gus doesn't like to throw it down the field, but be this successful. And that's a big part of what the Noles have done for years, is try to hit home runs, but they've never done it in this offense with this much motion, with this many shifts. Now I think they're just going to sprinkle a little bit more on top. We'll see if I'm right, but I'm pretty sure that I am, because Florida State, it's only 2 games in, and Gus has got a big playbook. I think they're going to add some stuff. And I'm not saying he's not going to pull from other teams or things that he sees in the NFL. That's possible. But I think it's going to be still more of the small stuff. Be really good about what you do and know who you are. Maybe that's really the theme. Florida State hasn't deviated from that, and they've smoked their first couple of opponents, which, by the way, is going to happen to Kent State this next Saturday inside of Doak Campbell Stadium. I think we're going to see Florida State find more passing plays, just slowly add to the book, and then you'll see a whole bunch of different stuff that's pretty similar, but maybe from a different formation, a different player in the lineup, with maybe 1 or 2 additional things against the Canes inside of Doak Campbell. It's just my take. What's yours? Do you think Florida State will add more or no, and why? We will find out very soon, but all week we're going to be talking about the Kent State game, things that Florida State needs to do to get ready to not only beat the bejesus out of Kent State, but more importantly, prepare for Virginia and then prepare for Miami. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day on a Sunday afternoon. I truly appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. We will see you again Monday morning, bright and early, here on Locked On Seminoles.